Hi, and welcome to Wrong Way. And today, I'm gonna tell you my impressions about the ride of the veteran Abrams. So, let me tell you more about it. Wrong Way. First up, big thanks to my eWheel for hooking me up with Leatt. They sent me this veteran Abrams for free to keep, so I can test it for a longer time and give you my opinion on what it's like to ride. And of course, big thanks to Leatt for letting me keep this one. Anyways, if you also want to purchase any wheel in Europe, feel free to use the link below at my eWheel and my coupon code to receive 5% off. I also do receive kickback from these orders. With that said, it's already been almost 2 months since I got the Abrams, so we did have the unboxing video and the teardown, but why didn't we have so many videos with me riding on the Abrams? Well, that's because there was a lot of stuff happening, that's the first thing, and the weather was not the best. But most of all, I had a bearing failure. After 70 kilometers, we had to change the bearings, and yeah, we had to fix the Abrams. But including the first set of bearings, I already did half 1,000 kilometers on it, on the Abrams, so I got it to know a little better. And in this video, it will be sort of like a stream of consciousness, what I think about the ride on this wheel specifically. It won't be a review, but hopefully it will give you a better idea of what this wheel is all about. And in this video, you'll see me riding on the street a lot. That's actually not a thing I do that often. Now I just usually take cycling paths and I go slower. But since the traffic and cars in Warsaw are really fast, I sort of try to adapt to that. I really don't like to be overtaking at a distance of a elbow, so that's why I'm sort of fast here. Let me know also in the comments what you think about it. Should I just go like the speed limit is essentially in the city, or is it like safer to go with the flow of cars sort of? With that said, I think that the Abrams isn't really what, like, I don't really know what they were thinking. I think that it was really advertised differently than to what the actual product is, because I think that this wheel is a cruiser. It's not for off-road riding. I think it's also not for performance riding. It is definitely for long distances. And I also already did a range test and I got around 100 kilometers, which is a stellar result for this battery. I thought it will do like 80 or 90, but I did 100 kilometers in a pretty fast pace. And I still had a little bit of battery left, so it's not that much less range than the Sherman. That is also probably because I don't push it that hard, because it's not even possible because of the super soft setting of the pedals, even in the hardest pedal mode. But yeah, I guess that's that. The range is pretty great. A thing that I didn't expect to like so much about the Abrams is actually the tire. So here we have a 22-inch tire, essentially the same thing as on the Monster V3, but I think that the rim is actually a bit wider. So cornering on this thing is pretty great. Like, it's not as nimble as smaller wheels or lighter wheels, but it gives you this huge gyroscope effect. It really feels like a motorcycle, like a monowheel motorcycle, and it reminds me a lot of the Monster Pro in that case, but it just has a lot more grip because the surface area, like horizontally of the tire, is just bigger, or that's at least what I think here. And cornering on this thing and the stability is pretty insane, and that's what also gives me the comfort to cruise here on the street without getting, you know, too concerned about wobbles. Like, this wheel doesn't have really much wobbles with me. Like, you can get them and then you need to be experienced to get out of them again, but I don't think it's prone to that necessarily. So it has a lot of stability, it has the gyroscope effect, and because of that, I just feel really comfortable going on the street with it. I don't do it that often, as said, but if I have to go, if there's no cycling path available, like for example here, then I can pretty freely do it. And at the same time, when going slower, it still has a pretty good turning radius, and I'm not that scared of scratching the pedals. Well, unless it's a long turn and I have a lot of pedal dipping, which you're also gonna see later. When it comes to acceleration, the Abrams is not really great. First of all, it's pretty hard to start accelerating on it, and it has like this weird motor sound from the get-go. It really just like cracks and rattles. I don't know if what it's about. Maybe it's the hull sensors. I heard that they were pretty cheap, but especially the low-end torque is just not there. It sounds pretty bad. And when I was also going up a hill once, it just dimmed the front lights. I don't really think it has much of low-end torque. But if you go and accelerate a bit slower and go up to higher speed, it still has plenty of, like, I don't know, horsepower or just power to keep going, and the beeps actually start a lot later than on the Sherman. Usually on the Sherman I have them around 67, 68, 9, and here they start around 74, 75, and there where I was going down the hill with backwind, I didn't even hear any beeps, and I definitely can hear them because the beeper is in a nice spot and just behind the front LED light, so I can always hear it. So low-end torque and in general torque, I don't think it has that much of it. I think it's on a level of a Monster Pro actually, or just a bit more. But in terms of just high-end speed, I think it's there. Like for high-speed cruising, I would much prefer this over the Sherman. Now, I don't know how fast it can go like over the beeps because that's not something that I do, but in general the speeds that I reach with this wheel would be higher than on a Sherman, like if I'll be comfortable with it and you know the situation is right. But here you can see when I try to accelerate, this thing is just dipping like crazy. It's like soft mode and you can't turn it off because this is actually strong mode that you see, and when I'm braking it goes back, it dips. Oh my god, it's like I think it's the worst experience I've ever had in terms of like accelerating. You really need to do it slow because otherwise you just like will scratch your toes. Like I couldn't even believe it. Here I wanted to do a acceleration test, and first I had to just nudge it a bit backwards when I was 20, and then at 40 it was dipping so hard forwards that I just couldn't continue. I can't do a really quick acceleration test on it because it just dips too much. Plus I have the pedals set at -5, so it's tilting forwards already because of the front headlight. Because the front headlight is tilting way less than on the Sherman. So if I have the pedals at 0, the light keeps blinding everyone, and that's not something that I want to do. And here in turns, you can't see it that well, but it dips like crazy. Like pedal dipping in turns, one of the worst experiences ever. So in that regard, both acceleration and turning, I think that Veteran has a lot of work to do. It's still, you know, it's still not that crucial for me sort of to not ride the wheel. I still very much like riding it. It's just something. And especially here, just take a look, accelerating, it seems like it will just like flip forward. So yeah, that's definitely not something that I like about the wheel, and it sort of forces you to just not go that fast, not accelerate that strong, and maybe that's what they wanted to do, but it definitely doesn't feel nice. What does feel nice though is the front roll bar. It's higher now because of the whole shell is higher, and maybe that just talk a bit about the ergonomics of the wheel, because it's very tall, like it digs into your knees. But after a while, it's not that bad in my experience. And I also put some additional foam there on the top to make it just a bit more comfy. But I wish that the pedals would be just like 5 centimeters higher, and then I'm sure that it would be a lot more comfy. I could also see more. Yeah, if the pedals would be higher, I think that's what I would prefer on this wheel. It's very wide, it's very bulky, and it's definitely like you really feel it when you ride it. The Sherman in comparison feels like a small wheel and a very like nicely shaped ergonomical wheel. But the bigger shell also makes it one of the nicest, or the nicest wheel for me to ride seated on, and that is without the seat. Just some small amount of foam or padding that I put there. And to ride seated, it's great because it also has the front roll bar which you can hold on to. It's wide, so your feet are holding, your legs are holding on to it nicely. So it's really great for seated riding. And now you can see me just shredding a bit or riding a bit more agile at lower speeds, and it just behaves really well there. Apart from the sudden acceleration or braking, the turning is pretty good, but as said, there's the pedal dipping. So yeah, it's really just a mixed bag for me, this wheel. I love the fact that it eats up all the bumps at any speed on basically any asphalt path, but when you go off-road, it's very bouncy, it's too big, it's too heavy, it doesn't have the torque. It's difficult to turn in like an off-road scenario. When you're in a city, it's pretty easy to turn. Like, you still need the muscles, but it's controllable. So I think that this is really just like a niche wheel. I think that if you choose between the Sherman and the Abrams, there are just very little reasons to get the Abrams, because the Sherman has better acceleration. In general, it will be more agile. It will have also more range, especially the Sherman Max that came out now. And I think it, in just like ergonomical shape, it's better. The taillight is better in the regular Sherman. So the other way around, the reasons for me to get an Abrams are just very little actually. First of all, it's not that safe with the waterproofing aspect too, water resistance. So that's also something to keep in mind. But the reasons to get a Abrams for me is that you really want that 22-inch tire. You really want the ultimate stability. You really want to have like very nice cornering at high speed without having like fear of wobbles. And you really just do long rides, long cruises, because that's where this wheel shines. And even though the battery is smaller, I think that the range is still very, very acceptable. I was afraid of that. I thought that the range wouldn't be that good, but it is, because I've tested it. So it really comes down to what you want to ride and what is your preference. Also, like on this light off-road, like here, it feels pretty safe, like unless there are big bumps inside. So yeah, I guess these are my first sort of thoughts about the Abrams. I know it took a while to make them, and I think I'll make another ride video with a bit more sort of performance riding, but I really wanted to get this video out so you guys have a video from me about the Abrams, so you know what I think of it. So with that said, if you're still here, leave a like on the video, subscribe to see more content like this. We're really close to 50,000 now, so hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video. See you soon.